During the pentagram rite, it was as if there were white blades, or a single white blade of different directions, but a single piece nonetheless. And for a time, there was no awareness outside of the temple, or even some spots of the temples, like the corners that were beyond the blade outline of a sphere. With the first set of vibrations, it was like there was a presence from the southwest to the northeast. So, sort of behind me and further forward to the left as I face somewhat west. And then it was like the ground responded in a way to be receptive. And then it was the walls and ceiling. With the fourth set of vibrations, there were hexagons of triangular yellow pieces. In the fourth set of vibrations, I smelt myrrh. And that's a wood that has not been burnt here. And I'm not sure if the temple room in the house ever had that incense burning either, fake or real. With the final reading, I became comfortably warm, radiating off my face almost. And with the final scrying, the shadows were bigger and more pronounced, and there was by star I mean points that stick out from it, bits of yellow that moved about amongst it. There is this myth, or a series of myths, that regard a century. Like if a century goes by, in some way it's all done away with and started over. People come together of all different sorts to accomplish the same thing. And if they understand each other in this same work, then, it gets done, right? America, well, L.A. America seems to be this title that keeps appearing. What takes a while to build up may be torn down quickly. In a way, there is the detracting from physical media, and he saw that coming. He also realized that being a player, or getting around, or whatever you want to call it, is sometimes, in a way, being a victim. Now, in this sense, is the reference to disease. Even if it's not known that a person has a disease or has been tested or something, if it's not known, there's definitely that big old risk out there. Well, a whole series of risks, actually, really. People think they're better than the religious because there's some sort of chemical or procedure to counteract nature, or that the old things were representative of some new things. And we can think of some of these new things in terms of what's always been around, like bombs and sunsets, for example. Desire turns into a prison. You get a little further by existing, and you're still trapped. The universe, despite the extremes that we have to go through or could go through, things progress slowly along. The different sides try to provoke each other. Creation is not so limited. Is poetry a type of math? We need to get beyond books. We need to get beyond the idea of life. Most of us are led along, and most of us put on the roles that they tell us to. We want to join with, to have a relationship that's outside of that. What do the animals think about animal sacrifice? Well, just like any religious use of anything, it's really a thing of, it's sanctified, it's free. Those who just want to have pets, those who just want wealth, those who just find something attractive or something to stay away from, well, they're producing enemies for themselves in this, making it a mere indulgence or abstinence thing, or possession thing, aren't they? Some places will treat you better than others. There's people who are oppressed or who get away with things pretty much anywhere. America as a bullring arena. Language is a spell that mixes with action. People invent ideas about divinity, and these ideas are used to direct or excuse their conflicts. Snake farm. Well, people operate their grift, and that often starts with a little backyard or park or whatever competition when you're younger. Drugs don't fix things. They don't make a person a mystic by themselves. And what are we left with in the end? Technology proves useful, and we develop plans and get some ideas of curiosities. to arrange in our own ideas of the past and the way things are going into the future. People want to make a show. They want to make a show of themselves. They make it about an establishment of a kingdom of evil, but perhaps they don't know it behind the smiles. Accomplishments can drive one mad. There are things that they're going to happen anyways. What are we? Square or place of life? People actually become artificial. People form plans, and the results can end up being a secret thing. Is it better to convey meaning, to be something which is interpreted, or to be dull and safe? Nature has its time, and we forget that past a time when the artificial overwhelms. When we are innocent, we are in accord with nature. But when we're not, we still want to explore and figure things out, restore ourselves to a mature standing of at least similar height. The sidewalkers. Well, there's a lot of talk about progress, and is it really progress when the identity becomes just whatever's said to be the modern ways or the modern things? The styles merge, and there's still something to say about change. We want to record things for later. Time may not so preserve, but it may carve out details. We may want to make a deal, but what are we giving up as part of that deal? We all want something to help us unwind. We all want something that creates a oneness of the understanding of the time. Perhaps all we can do is form some connections at hand. Life is endless, and instead of mourning change, perhaps the only thing left would be the mourning of separation that is inevitable when it isn't part of change. Loose page poems, things you hear about, real or imaginary, are things that in one way we may enact. In a way, you are the king or queen of your world. Mythology needs to be individual. It needs to be of the time and place. L.A. America is, well, with so many choices, so much exposure, you just want some sort of dulling of things, right? You kind of doubt things. You're awe-inspired at the same time. It isn't about one gender or any other group. Things aren't precise. There's ever goals being reached. But do you know when to stop expressing or paying attention? The connectors. We watch. We are watched. Everyone is dying. We don't know the future. Well, if you must, stand out. Things are not always literal, even when they're objective. Isle of Wight, the modern is present. The memory is here. We can be guided. How did we get here? I'm reminded of the faint white, milky, that filled the glass when I was scrying earlier. Innocence and fragments are present as a reference when we fail. Power. People want to know how to do or obtain mystic powers. But at the root of it all, we just are, and our perceptions are given the ability to expand. So keep your sacred fire, in a sense. We may be in a dream that we never awake from. The original temptation to challenge the limits, to go in between. Perhaps at the base is materialism. What do we live for? What do we die for? What is our true relation? What is the difference between humanity and kingdom? Feast, green beast, the past can change how we can approach the future. Can sex merge materialism and spirituality, or does it destroy both of them? Well, it all depends how it's used, right? We all want something from each other, and perhaps it's about the shocking or the power. The Electra tapes, some will laugh in their immaturity. For some, it's just a differentiation from the sense of their place of comfort. Some will destroy in what they think is naughty. Bird of prey. Is the last lines from Peace Frog. There's the journey, its place, what it's doing, where it's going, who it's going to be with. Under waterfall. People take a moment away from their sense of what is. And maybe someone sees and wonders, what if things were different? Winter photography is about the memory when things lull. Whiskey and mystics and men. Are you controlled by the morning after? By the teachings? Are your feelings? Orange County suit? You remember about people in the past, and you want to go in and try to think, okay, maybe one can reconnect, but maybe they're not there. And maybe they were never totally there to begin with. You know, the idea of them getting into a relationship. People know the other exists, and they pretend that they don't. American Night, well, what goes on, people must judge. People judge in different ways, but they must judge. Some choose life, some choose death, some go back and forth. Some choose sex, some choose violence, some choose their own, appearance or persona. Is our seeking out of a good time about trying to work through our past? Some of those who will make things about their group will quickly turn things, or could quickly turn things towards just horrible ends. Some want to bring peace and others want to take it away. Some live the aspects of religion. Some enact them and are willing to disrupt or do things their own way. The city is bipolar. Science of night? Well, some of us always live in a sort of night. Impacted by others. Are seemingly forced towards action, not in a coerced or whatever way in actuality, but just, this general going with the flow of life thing. But maybe it's not life's real flow. Maybe we need to get back to the primal before the harsh realization of the modern is forced upon us. But then we can go on to the future.